The notary's camera caught my daughter-in-law forging my signature. The same day she tried to have me declared incompetent, my hands didn't shake. I just asked the clerk to print 3 certified copies. By sunset, her SUV was on the tow hook and I still hadn't raised my voice. This story's only getting started. I woke up before the sun, same as always. The air was cold enough to make my breath look like smoke as I stepped onto the porch. The boards creaked beneath my slippers, and the smell of pine and wood smoke mixed with the faint sweetness of fallen leaves. I wrapped both hands around my mug and whispered to no one in particular. This is the quiet I earned. 40 years of night shifts as a nurse in Charlotte had taught me 2 things: how to stay awake when the world sleeps, and how to hold my peace when people mistake silence for weakness. Widowhood only sharpened both lessons. My mornings were orderly, the way I liked them. Pillbox by the sink. Pantry lined and labeled. Propane tank checked every first Monday of the month. Some folks think living alone means being careless, but a woman alone can't afford that luxury. Out here in the Blue Ridge, quiet isn't emptiness. It's proof you're doing something right. The wind chime above the porch swayed gently, ringing once or twice. I've come to think of it as my little barometer. When it sings soft, I know the day will be kind. My cabin isn't grand, but it's mine. The deed stays in a fireproof box with my will and insurance papers. I earned every board, every shingle, and I like to keep things in order. No revolving doors, no surprises. My pension covers what it needs to. I drive a small truck, paid in full. Nothing fancy, but dependable. When the world outside feels too loud, I thank the Lord for small mercies like hot water and a sturdy lock. That morning, I was halfway through my list for the day when my phone, propped on the window ledge, buzzed twice, just enough signal to make trouble. It was Jerome, my son. His name always warms me before it cools me. "Hey, Mama," he said, his voice syrup-sweet. "Can you help me with something small?" I smiled into my coffee. "Small for who? Baby?" He chuckled, but it sounded rehearsed. "Just a favor. You've always had such a big heart. When a grown man starts flattering like that, it's never about love. Spit it out. Jerome." He hesitated. "Cressida's got this idea. Nothing big, just temporary." The wind chime gave a sharp clang. I glanced up. "Go on. You've got all that space. Mama and, you're not in the city anymore. It'd be easier for everyone if—" I cut him off. "If what?" He exhaled. "Her parents might need a place for a few weeks, just until they get settled." I looked out at the trees, already bearing themselves for winter. A few weeks is what people say when they mean longer. He tried humor. "You won't even notice them." "I notice everything that crosses my porch," I said softly. There was typing in the background. Somebody, maybe Cressida, feeding him lines. "Mama, it's really not a big deal. They don't want to be a burden." "Then let's slow walk that," I said, calm but firm. "Text me names, dates, how long. You know my rules." He sighed. "You're always so precise." Precise keeps me safe. When we hung up, I wrote the date and time in my notebook. Habit from years of hospital charting. I poured the last of my coffee and stared at the reflection of the sky in it. Gray. Uncertain. Before noon. I'd made copies of my deed and insurance papers, sent them to my attorney, Lorraine Caldwell, checked the driveway camera, made sure the no trespassing sign was visible. I even called Troy at the sheriff's office. "Got anyone sniffing around about property use?" I asked. "Funny you mention that," he said. "Heard some chatter about a family looking for a long stay near your road." I thanked him, hung up, and whispered to the chime, "Boundaries are kindness in 3D. That evening, as dusk settled, the phone buzzed again. Unknown number ending in -0931. A text blinked. "Video chat tomorrow 9 a.m. Family plan." A preview followed. Cressida's name on it. "We'll keep it simple." The porch light flickered, just once. Like an eye blinking in the dark, I set the phone face down. But for a split second, I thought the camera glimmered back at me. I slid my notebook under it and murmured, We'll keep it legal. Outside. The wind picked up, turning the chime from a whisper to a warning. At 8:55 a.m., I had the laptop open on the kitchen table. The light was soft through the curtains, glinting off my mug. I'd cleared the background, just a plain wall, a framed quilt square, and a vase of dried lavender. My notebook sat on the right, pen lined beside it. The router light blinked steady. The signal test complete. I texted Lorraine, my attorney, a short note. Family call at 9. Sticking to questions. No debates. I exhaled slowly, loosening my jaw like I used to before a difficult patient. People say wild things on camera, I murmured. That doesn't make it law. The wind chime outside gave 2 soft taps. That was my cue. When the screen flickered to life, Cressida's smile was already too big. Evelyn. Let's keep this simple, she said, her voice bright as glass. She thanked me for my big heart, praised my perfect mountain space for elders, and called my cabin a natural family hub. Jerome echoed her, sounding like a man reading a script. It's just for a season, Mama. We'll make it easy. I tilted my head slightly. You said family hub. Is this a visit or a relocation? Cressida waved her hand, the kind of dismissive gesture polished people use. It's a family solution, win-win, really. The girls will know their grandparents are safe. I made a quiet note in my pad. My peace =, surplus. My consent =, assumed. My voice stayed level. I hear you. Let's talk specifics. Dates, costs, length of stay. Cressida's smile thinned, then she dropped it, smooth as a blade. My parents will live with you. If you don't like it, move back to the city. I watched Jerome's eyes flicker. He didn't flinch, didn't speak. I wrote the time, 9:07 a.m., and underlined it twice. That's a statement, not a request. I said. Cressida leaned closer to her camera. You're retired. Routine is good for elders. This gives you purpose. Behind her words, I saw a flicker, screen share, a document labeled Family Plan. My cabin's address was listed as a temporary multi-generational residence. So, no one asked, I said softly. You've already decided. Jerome rubbed his temple. Mama, it's just for a while. I kept my face calm. Who's paying utilities? Who handles groceries, medication, transport? Who's liable if someone slips on my steps? Cressida blinked. What does that matter? It matters when the sheriff comes knocking, I replied. Now, arrival and departure dates, full names, ID copies. You'll send them? Jerome sighed. That's a lot, Mama. Living alone this far out is a lot, I answered. Boundaries make it possible. I flipped to a new page. Before any stay, we'll need proof of homeowner's coverage, guest agreement signed, and a doctor's note confirming mobility safety. 2-night hotel trial first. I'll reimburse half if it works out. Cressida frowned, her brightness dimming. You're overcomplicating this? Putting things in writing simplifies life, I said. I glanced at the recorder light. For clarity, I'm documenting this call. I'll follow up by email. Please confirm or correct anything inaccurate. Silence. Then Cressida said, You're treating family like a contract. I smiled. Family who respects each other uses contracts. I repeated her exact line aloud. You said, quote, My parents will live with you. If you don't like it, move back to the city. Correct. Her lips pressed thin. Jerome muttered, Mama, stop being dramatic. I didn't raise my voice. No drama. Son, just documentation. Cressida tried one more move. Think of the grandkids. Thanksgiving together. All under one roof. I'll see my grandbabies in town, I said. We'll bake cookies at church. Love doesn't require my deed. She blinked. Thrown off by the word deed, Jerome asked. So, no? Not without written agreement, insurance proof, and a clear end date. I ended the call with, I love you both. Let's handle this like grown folks. When the screen went dark, the room felt wider. I sent my follow-up email to both of them and CC'd Lorraine. Bullet points, timestamps, the whole line quoted verbatim. I attached my guest policy with its no trespass clause and duration cap. Then I texted Troy. Any strangers up this way? He replied within a minute. White SUV yesterday. Asked for the lady with space for elders. Sent them back to town. I logged the note, printed the email thread, and slid it into my home file. The wind outside went still. For the first time, the chime didn't move at all. At 10:04, a new notification popped up. Calendar invite. Vale move-in, Friday arrival, Forp, fun, imam. No attachment, no signature. Then another ping. Delivery notice for 2 storage pods scheduled for my gravel drive. I looked out the window toward the road, whispered, "All right then," and called Lorraine. "We've got a live one," I said. "They're moving faster than manners allow." The line clicked, confirming the call. The chime outside stayed silent, the morning air bit sharper than usual, and the ridge seemed to listen. I sat at my kitchen table, reading through last night's email recap one more time before printing 2 signed copies. I slipped them into plastic sleeves and stamped each page with the date. Chain of custody, Lorraine would call it. I reset the porch camera reminder, set an alert for the battery swap, then double-checked the laminated sign by the road. Private drive, no drop without consent. My boots waited by the door. Before heading out, I texted Lorraine. "Pods due at noon. Will verify work order, consignee, and authority." She replied with a thumbs up and "Keep everything factual." By 10. I had moved my truck sideways across the gravel, the legal kind of blockade. I took pictures of the lane, the sign, even the frost melting off the fence. "If they lie, the photos won't," I muttered. My thermos steamed by my elbow. Steady as my breath, at 11:58, a white box truck appeared, tires crunching like teeth on stone. 2 men stepped out, matching polos, clipboards glowing blue from their tablets. "Delivery for Vale, move-in," one said, his tone flat, eyes sliding past me toward the cabin. "Name on the work order," I answered. "Palms visible?" "Consignee and signature required," he angled the tablet. It read, "Consignee, Evelyn M." But the authorizer line said Vale Household Coordinator. My jaw tightened. "That's not my name," I said. "Who's your dispatcher?" While he hesitated, I snapped photos of the screen, the truck plate, the company logo. "No drop without my written authorization. Please keep the lane clear while we sort this out." He called someone, handed me the phone. A voice came through, oily and confident. "Ma'am, the family confirmed verbally. We're authorized under their plan." "Then your plan's not legal here," I said. "Written consent only. Who carries liability if a pod injures someone on my property?" Silence hummed. "We're just trying to do our job." "So am I," I said, tone polite, but iron flat. "Protecting my home. Document this refusal for your records, please. You can park by the highway turnout while you get proper paperwork." They exchanged glances. I stayed put. Then my phone vibrated. New notifications stacking like hail. Calendar invites. Vale parents, ETA 4 p.m.s. Keys under mat. Another text. "We'll need both bedrooms cleared." Attached. A photo of my porch, taken weeks ago. My stomach cooled to stone. I forwarded everything to Lorraine and to my insurer's risk address, then texted Troy. "Truck's here. Crew might idle near the turnout." His reply came fast. "Copy that. Watching." I logged the time, the phrasing, the weather, everything. "If it isn't in writing from me," I said softly, "it isn't real." I drafted 3 new emails in quick order, one to the HOA manager with photos attached, one to my insurance rep noting unauthorized occupancy pressure, and one to the bank. "If any mail forwarding request appears, flag immediately." Then I sent Jerome and Cressida a short, neutral note. "No deliveries accepted today without my signature." When I hung up with the sheriff's non-emergency line, my voice stayed even. "This isn't an incident yet. Just documentation," I explained. "They promised a welfare check at 1. No lights, no fuss. At exactly 1 o'clock, a cruiser rolled past slow, the deputy nodding at my cones. The delivery crew still waited at the turnout. 5 minutes later, their dispatcher called back. 'No insurance certificate, we'll reschedule.' 'There'll be no reschedule until I authorize it in writing,' I said. 'Mark this as refused for lack of documentation.'" They turned the truck carefully, gravel spitting under the tires. I guided them out, calm, waving once. When the lane was empty again, I took one last photo for my files and emailed the outcome to all parties. I poured fresh coffee and stood at the window. The quiet returned, but it had a different weight, like the mountain itself was holding its breath. Then a silver SUV slowed by my mailbox, a phone raised behind tinted glass. It lingered, then eased away. Moments later, my inbox chimed. The subject line read, "Temporary Guardianship Discussion. Tonight." The attachment, care agreement, PDF. I opened it. My name was already typed neatly on the signature line. The PDF opened before me. My name already typed in. The digital scribble pretending to be my signature. Words like primary elder site, reasonable occupancy, and mutual key access jumped off the screen. Hidden in the fine print was a line that chilled me. Consent assumed unless revoked in writing. Someone thought they were clever. I screenshotted the metadata, creator name, timestamp, editor, and sent it to Lorraine and my insurer with a short note. Signature forged, no consent, file under undue influence. I copied my attorney list just to keep the trail wide. At 5:48 p.m. Another email landed, e-sign window 6 o'clock, 6:15 p.m. It came with a countdown link, like I was expected to race a timer to surrender my rights. Cressida texted, "This is for your safety. Evelyn, be reasonable." I typed back, "I'm perfectly safe in my home. I do not consent to multi-household occupancy." Then I opened my e-sign app, changed the password, disabled autofill, and logged the IP attempt. Jerome called a few minutes later, his voice uneven. "Mama, it's not like that. She just wants to help." I cut him off softly. "Then use your own voice next time, not hers. We're talking about property law, not help." At 6:20, tires crunched on my drive. Pastor Mullen appeared with a casserole dish and a smile rehearsed for church potlucks. Behind him came a neighbor with her phone aimed my way. "We just came to check on you," she said, too brightly. "The family's worried." My porch light threw their shadows long and sharp. "Pastor," I said evenly, "you weren't invited. Kindly leave my steps." They mentioned a care agreement, as if it was already mutual. I held my ground, handed him a paper. Private resident status owner's notice. My initials marked each paragraph. He sighed. "Evelyn, isolation isn't healthy. Folks just want you safe." I met his gaze. "I'm safer alone than surrounded by people who ignore the word no," the neighbor chimed in. "They're family. It's different. Family without consent is still trespass," I answered. I called the non-emergency line on speaker, reported unwanted visitors, departing now. They lowered their phones and walked away, casserole and all. By 8 o'clock, the mobile notary arrived, punctual, polite, and carrying a heavy seal. I prepared 5 documents: no cohabitation, no key duplication, revocation of implied consent, authorized guests, blank, and an evidence preservation rider. Each page bore my initials, each clause my signature. She stamped and scanned them into her system, emailing the copies before leaving. I forwarded the packet to Lorraine, my insurer, the HOA, and the sheriff's admin, then to Jerome and Cressida. Any move-in or deliveries without my wet signature constitutes trespass and will void goodwill. At 9:05 p. The driveway camera chimed. A figure in a hoodie crouched near my door, waving a handheld duplicator over the smart lock. The click failed. The cylinder was decoupled last spring, an upgrade no one knew about. I zoomed in on the plate number, texted Troy. "Suspicious device at my door." His patrol passed within minutes. The silver SUV bolted toward the ridge. Before bed, I added a steel hasp on the utility gate and tagged the propane cage with a tamper seal. On the fridge, I left myself a note in red ink. "You are fine. Sleep." I prepped 2 envelopes for the county clerk, one for filing, one for backup, and set my porch light to pulse every 10 minutes. Presents without invitation. Then, just past 10, another email arrived. Subject: exploring temporary guardianship, just paperwork. The attachment, a petition draft, listed patterns of confusion and refusal of care. I printed it, hand steady, and wrote a title in black marker across the top page, Defense Capacity. By sunrise, I had coffee, 2 envelopes, and a to-do list inked in red. The courthouse parking lot was still half empty when I stepped out of my Subaru. Inside, the clerk's counter smelled faintly of toner and lemon cleaner. I slid my packets under the glass. She stamped them with Monday's date, then her brows knit. Mrs. Marrow, your name's on a guardianship calendar. Monday morning. Ex parte? My chest tightened, but my voice stayed level. Please print the petition and certify my copies. The language mirrored last night's email. Refuses care, confusion, unsafe mountain dwelling. I wrote the case number on my planner. This is now a court matter, I texted Jerome. Speak truth or stay silent. I found a corner table. Drafted a notice of opposition and motion to quash. I attached my notary affidavits, prescription list, and the sheriff's welfare tag. By noon, the clerk promised when I asked about Chambers' delivery. I emailed Jerome again. If you didn't sign this, stay out of it. If you did, own it. My clinic fit me in at 2:15 p.m. for a capacity evaluation. When I stepped outside, the cold air steadied me. Paper, when used right, cuts sharper than any knife. Back home. My landline blinked. A robo-voice warned of a scheduled service interruption. I called the utility office. The supervisor recognized my name instantly. We received an online disconnect request, owner verified. He read the last 4 digits, wrong ones. Someone guessed. I emailed him my notarized, no drop authorization. He flagged my file owner verification only, in-person ID required. Fraud attempt noted, he said. I hung up, logged the call, and sent everything to Deputy Troy under the subject paper bullets. Before noon, Adult Protective Services called. A concern's been raised that you're living without heat and rejecting assistance. I smiled into the phone. You're welcome Monday. After my doctor's visit, I'll record the session. 10 minutes later, Lorraine from the HOA emailed me a violation notice for multi-occupancy preparations. Referring to the unopened folding beds still boxed in my garage, I replied with timestamp photos and my insurer's letter confirming single occupancy coverage. Lorraine answered quickly. Holding violation pending review. Keep documenting. By 1:30, a yellow card fluttered under my wiper. Unauthorized overnight parking, tow at owner's expense. My car hadn't moved from my own driveway. I snapped a photo, forwarded it to Lorraine. She called back, irritated. That cardstock isn't ours. Someone's printing copies. I adjusted my driveway camera to catch the street edge, muttering, let them smile for the lens. Then I texted Jerome. Son, I'm recording everything. Choose honesty. Deputy Troy arrived mid-afternoon, hands in his vest pockets. Calm as ever. Utilities locked in fraud alert, he said. We'll sweep the ridge tonight. A repair truck sealed my meter with a red tamper tag. I printed a new gate sign. Deliveries by appointment only, and taped it straight. Then I drafted a cease and desist letter addressed to Cressida Vale and all agents, citing harassment, interference with services, and attempted constructive cohabitation. I booked a notary for morning. At the clinic, the nurse ran a mini cog test. I rattled off the answers without blinking. My doctor chuckled. Still sharp, Evelyn. She promised a formal capacity letter. I stopped at the pharmacy, asked for a printed refill record, then picked up milk and bread at the market. Stocking up. Miss Marrow, the clerk teased. Just enough to prove I'm alive, I said, smiling. By dusk, my inbox pinged again. A blast email sent to half the neighborhood. Elder alone, unsafe, family needs access. Attached were porch photos from weeks ago. Lorraine hit reply all. Speculation isn't policy. The owner is compliant. Her quick defense warmed me more than the heater. But outside, fresh headlights cut across the trees. A rental box truck idled by my gate. Blinkers steady. I picked up my phone, hit record, and stepped into the light, holding my sealed cease and desist like a lantern against the dark. The headlights burned white against the pines as I stepped into their glare, one hand holding the sealed cease and desist, the other steady on my phone's camera. The box truck rumbled low, and a second SUV edged in to block the lane. Same tactic I'd seen in hospital parking lots during family disputes. Cressida leaned halfway out the window, chin lifted. "We're here. Help us unload." Her voice carried that syrupy authority people use when they've already decided what's best for you. Jerome sat in the cab behind her, eyes fixed on the dash. I kept my voice calm. "You are not moving one spoon onto this property. You've been served." The camera caught her flinch, then the murmur of other voices rising from the SUV. I spoke into the phone, clear and slow, date, time, location, identifying each participant. The truck door slammed upward, revealing stacked cots, a mini fridge, and bins labeled meds and linens, props for their care narrative. "My parents can't do stairs," Cressida announced. "The master's perfect." I pointed to the insurer's hazard notice posted on my gate and read it aloud for the recording. "Single occupancy only, by policy." She folded her arms. "You're being difficult." "No," I said evenly. "I'm being documented." I slipped the envelope through her open window. She wouldn't touch it, so I left it on the dash where the camera could see. Jerome muttered, "Mom, don't make a scene." I met his reflection in the windshield. "I'm making a record." A sedan pulled up next. Sign on the door reading 24-hour locksmith. The man stepped out, tool bag slung over one shoulder. "Ma'am, I was told this was a safety check." Cressida spoke quickly. "She's confused, disoriented." I raised my license to the porch cam and again to him. Owner, Evelyn Marrow. Sheriff's fraud alert in place. Meter tag sealed. He hesitated, glancing at Jerome. "You got paperwork?" "Only court orders count here," I said. "And there's none." The locksmith nodded once, pocketed his picks, and backed toward his car. I dialed non-emergency dispatch, referencing Deputy Hennick's and the guardianship docket. Same group, same truck, no breach yet. My phone recorded a slow pan, chain locked, sign posted, driveway clear. I texted Lorraine from the HOA a photo of the plates. She answered within a minute. "If they cross the line, that's a violation and tow authorization." I read it aloud for the record. Next call, my insurer's after-hours line. "Any forced co-occupancy voids coverage?" I asked. The rep confirmed and gave me a reference number. I turned the speaker toward the crowd. "You force entry. You assume all liability, injury, damage, yours." Two older in-laws stepped out of the SUV. I reminded them gently that my gravel starts at the gate and is under video. They stepped back, murmuring. Cressida's jaw twitched. "Then let us at least store the boxes." I shook my head. No storage, no staging, no halfway. I sent Jerome my stamped motion to quash, the clinic receipt for tomorrow's capacity check, and the APS confirmation email. "If you love me, don't let her use your name." I said. He rubbed his temples. "Maybe we have rights as family." Cressida cut in. I looked straight into the lens. "You have no tenancy, no invitation, and no court order. Just a story that melts under light." Red-blue reflection rippled over the truck hood as Deputy Troy's cruiser rolled in. He took my binder, thumbed through tabs, and nodded. "No warrant, no exigency. Owner present." He addressed the group calmly. "Leave the private road or face trespass warnings." The locksmith signed his log, the box door slammed shut, one by one. Engines turned over. As the truck idled, I caught a whisper. Cressida's voice, sharp through a phone speaker. "Monday's ex parte would have handled her if the lights got cut." My stomach turned to stone. The mic caught every syllable. Troy lifted his eyes from his notepad. I nodded once. I saved the clip to 3 drives, checked that the timestamp held, and said quietly, "Deputy, I'm ready to swear an affidavit tonight." The sheriff's printer hummed under harsh fluorescent light while Deputy Troy slid a statement template toward me. My hands didn't shake. They just looked older under that cold glow. I read the line from the recording. Every word steady. "Monday's ex parte would have handled her if the lights got cut." He played it back, logged the timestamp, sealed the clip as Exhibit A. We added the list. Locksmith pretext, false wellness call, the truck blocking my lane. Troy stamped the affidavit, gave it a case number, and explained what would follow. trespass warnings, fraud inquiry, harassment review. When I signed, he said softly, "This is what holding ground looks like." On the walk to my car, I typed a one-line note on my phone. "I'm not scared. I'm documented. At home." Dawn was a pale stripe over the ridge. I emailed Lorraine everything. Case number, photos, locksmith card, within an hour. She convened an HOA board quorum. By sunrise, they'd issued fines, tow warnings, and a rule reminder about overnight obstructions. A neutral community bulletin went out to every resident. It didn't name them, but everyone would know. I printed the letters, slid them into a red folder marked HEOA actionable. The sight of organized paper was steadier than any prayer. At 8 sharp, I called my bank's fraud line. The officer's voice was brisk but kind. Someone had tried to close my savings account on behalf of the customer from a new number added days ago. We locked the profile, set branch-only transactions, and flagged my Social Security digits. I froze my credit while she stayed on the line. "Whoever's doing this left a digital trail," she said. "We'll trace it." I asked for copies of the alerts to be mailed to my son. Jerome needed to see the consequences of silence. I labeled a blue folder, bank, fraud, and protections, and scanned the follow-up email into both drives. Mid-morning, APS called. The coordinator thanked me for the affidavit and said the behavior matched caregiver exploitation escalation. We reviewed my safety plan. Daily check-ins, neighbors aware, porch lights on. She asked for a quick video verification. I showed her my pillbox, emergency contacts, and the folders lined on my table. "You're what preparedness looks like," she said with a small smile. When we hung up, I sat back and breathed. I wasn't just surviving, I was proving capacity in real time. Jerome texted around 9. "Can we talk alone?" He stood in my driveway holding the truck keys from last night. "She said this would help you." "Mom," he murmured, "she said the guardianship would keep you safe." His phone trembled as he showed me pictures. Dim rooms, half-empty shelves, cropped to look like neglect. I recognized my own house, staged like a case file. "You don't have to pick me over her," I told him. "You just can't pick a lie." His eyes filled, and he whispered, "I'll send this to Troy." When he left, I watched him drive off toward the main road, the ridge swallowing the sound. Minutes later, my voicemail blinked. Cressida's tone was syrup and venom. "For the record, we came to help. Your mother is spiraling." She mentioned evaluation and safety. Rehearsed for court, I transcribed it, filed it under affidavit addendum. Online, a cousin posted about stubborn elders. I made coffee instead of replying. "I won't live inside their narrative," I said aloud to the empty kitchen. I wrote one short statement to family. Calm, factual, dated, sent, archived, done. By 10. Lorraine confirmed the HOA tow list. A neighbor offered to witness if needed. Deputy Troy texted, "Jerome screenshots received. Case updated to include coached staging." My bank officer confirmed all locks active. Routine became refuge. Walk, meds, check cameras. I placed copies of the affidavit and voicemail transcript in my glove box. Paper and steel, as dependable as breath. Then the ping came. Subject line, durable power of attorney. The PDF showed my name beside a signature I never made, notarized in a county I hadn't visited. My stomach went cold. The loops on the M were pure Cressida. I sent it to Troy and APS with a single line. Alleged forged POA. Please review. I laid it beside last night's affidavit. The forgery screamed its own guilt. I picked up the phone and said, "Deputy, I'm ready to file a forgery complaint today." The courthouse smelled faintly of toner and rain-soaked paper. Deputy Troy met me by the clerk's window, my folder already in his hand. We submitted the forged power of attorney and my affidavit, and the clerk turned to the notary log for that date. My name was there, but the description listed a woman 3 inches taller, with blonde hair, not me. The clerk requested the CCTV pull within minutes. The footage appeared on her monitor. Cressida standing beside a woman I didn't know, handing over the fake form with my name. The clerk printed and initialed the still frame. Troy logged it as evidence. setting my real signature beside the forgery. I signed the criminal complaint for forgery and uttering APS emailed its confirmation. I was sound of mind, capable, and safe, I whispered. This isn't drama, this is documentation. It steadied me like a prayer in plain English. By 10, we were in front of a magistrate judge. I swore to the facts. Bank tampering, locksmith scam, fake welfare check, drive block, and now the forged POA. The APS officer confirmed I was oriented and competent. Lorraine's HOA letter outlined every violation. The bank officer testified by phone about flagged accounts and the closure attempt. The judge reviewed the evidence, signed a temporary restraining order, and declared exclusive possession of my property to me alone. No contact, no unauthorized entry, no third-party wellness checks. She voided the POA, warned of sanctions for further filings, and handed Troy extra certified copies. I said, "Thank you. Your Honor?" She smiled. "Miss Marrow, enjoy your mountains." By mid-afternoon, the HOA camera pinged, Cressida's parents' SUV idling at the gate. Lorraine called. I called Troy. Within 10 minutes, he was there with the order in hand. He served the driver, read the restrictions, and nodded to the tow operator waiting on standby. "We have a valid POA," the driver argued. Troy simply lifted the stamped court order. The tow hook clanked. Lorraine logged the violation and posted the trespass notice at the gatehouse. I watched from the shade, silent, arms folded. The SUV rolled away behind the tow truck, and for the first time in weeks, the ridge wind didn't sound like warning. It sounded like release. Later, at the bank, I finalized the trust transfer. The title moved into my revocable trust, with a neutral successor and Jerome only as contingent. I added dual verification codes, locked every account, and filed confirmations by color: red for HOA, blue for bank, black for court. It was my new architecture. Paper walls protecting wooden beams. That evening, Jerome called. He looked worn but clearer. "I saw the tow video," he said. "I deserved that wake-up." I told him there was still a way back: therapy, clean finances, honesty. "Love stays," I said. "Access changes." He nodded. "I'll earn it right this time." His face softened. We ended without bitterness. My attorney's letter went out next, demanding reimbursement, apology, and a $5,000 donation to the local senior center's fraud prevention fund. Option B was clear: prosecution and damages. APS called to say they'd co-host a workshop if the donation came through. I agreed to speak. Title pending, paper before panic. Night fell quiet again. I reset the gate code, rehung the wind chimes, and set out 2 mugs on the porch rail, one for me, one for whoever peace allows. I texted Lorraine thanks, sent the bank officer a pie recipe, and wrote in my journal, "Peace requires paperwork. Dignity requires witnesses. I have both." At dusk, my inbox chimed, Cressida's withdrawal of petition. Another chime followed, the district attorney's investigator requesting a meeting. Other seniors reported similar attempts. The message read, I poured coffee, looked out over the darkening ridge, and said softly, "If my quiet saves someone else's, then this mountain did its job." Then I clicked reply and typed, "Yes, happy to testify." As the morning mist crawled up the ridge, Deputy Troy's truck reappeared in my drive, engine still running. He stepped out, holding a new file marked, State V's Unknown. I looked at the seal, then at him. "You said you were ready to testify," he murmured. "Are you ready to find out who else forged theirs?"